Hi, my name is Umberto Mucci. This is We the ItaliaNews, a podcast regarding Italy during coronavirus times. Today is Friday, July 10, and it was exactly 4 months ago when I started this podcast because the lockdown had initiated the day before in Italy. The numbers of the fight against the virus say that the epidemic curve in Italy is slightly rising for the second consecutive day due to the increase in data from Lombardy. But the number of people currently hospitalized with symptoms and people in intensive care is going down, and fortunately also that of the daily deaths from coronavirus recorded yesterday in only 5 Italian regions: Lombardy, Veneto, Tuscany, Piedmont and Lazio. Because of the coronavirus in Bergamo, Lombardy, life expectancy is back to the level of 20 years ago. In many other provinces we go back 10 or 15 years. But there's a good news that gives a hope. For the first time in 137 days since the first patient was admitted on February 23, yesterday the intensive care unit of the Papa Giovanni XXIII, the main hospital in Bergamo, was finally COVID-19 free. When the news was announced in the hospital, staff held a minute-long moment of silence for the victims of the pandemic before celebrating with a long round of applause, and many cried in silence. Italy has banned entry to people arriving from 13 countries that it said presented an excessive rate of COVID-19 infections. The list of 13 nations compiled by Italy's health ministry comprises Armenia, Bahrain, Bangladesh, Brazil, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Chile, Kuwait, North Macedonia, Moldova, Oman, Panama, Peru, and Dominican Republic. The travel ban affects anyone who has stayed in or traveled through these countries during the previous 14 days. Italy has suspended all direct and indirect flights to and from the 13 Irish countries. The move comes 2 days after Italy ordered the temporary suspension of flights from Bangladesh following a spike of coronavirus cases traced back to the people arriving in Rome from Dhaka. According to a study by the Bank of Italy, 1 in 3 Italians has economic reserves for less than 3 months. And this share is over 50% for the unemployed and for employees on fixed-term contracts. The impact of the crisis has been particularly severe for the self-employed. Almost 80% have suffered a drop in income, and for 36% the drop is more than half of family income. Approximately half of the population also expects a reduction in household income over the next 12 months, albeit at a lower rate than in the last 2 months. In addition, almost 40% of people say that they have difficulties in sustaining their mortgage payments due to the crisis. The share is higher in the center and south. About 30% of the population say that they cannot afford to go on holiday this summer, and almost 60% believe that even when the epidemic is over, their travel, holiday, restaurant, cinema and theater expenses will still be lower than before the crisis. And yesterday, the Italian Minister of the Interior said that the risk of a hot autumn is real, because in September we will see the results of this period of serious economic crisis. Today's history concerns a contagious but particular disease, and it does not happen today, but dates back to 1943. During the Second World War in Rome, there was a terrible epidemic of an unknown and dangerous disease. It was called K syndrome, had very serious symptoms and was extremely contagious. But thanks to the intuition of 3 exceptional Italian doctors, Giovanni Borromeo, Adriano Sicini and Vittorio Sacerdoti, there was no victim. Have you ever heard about this story? Listen. All the sick put in isolation in a pavilion of the Frate Bene Fratelli Hospital, which is on the Isola Tiberina in the middle of the Tiber River, were miraculously saved, and so were the doctor and nurses, despite the fact that K syndrome was very contagious. It all began on October 16, 1943, on the Black Saturday of the Rome Ghetto, when the SS made a horrendous roundup forcing 1,024 people, including hundreds of children, to board the horror trains to go to die in Auschwitz. However, someone managed to avoid the Nazis and save themselves by seeking refuge right on the Tiber Island, where the courageous Dr. Borromeo, head of the hospital, decided to hospitalize them all, almost 100. Obviously, a medical record had to be filled in for these special patients. And so the 3 doctors, in particular Vittorio Sacerdoti, who as a Jew had already been a victim of racial laws and worked under a false name in the hospital, imagined a horrible, devastating and contagious disease, K syndrome, where K actually indicated Kesselring, the ruthless Nazi officer, or according to other sources, Kappler, the inhuman persecutor of Rome. The The fake hospitalized were all placed in a special ward in solitary confinement. On the evening of October 16, 1943, when the Nazis came to patrol the hospital, they found the three doctors, Borromeo, Ossicini and Sacerdoti, with masks on their faces, very worried about the outbreak of this sudden and dangerous epidemic. The Nazis then claimed to see all the medical records, since there was also a doctor among them, but at the request of Dr. Borromeo to go and visit personally the sick, they were afraid of this person, the terrible K syndrome, and they preferred to leave. And so all the fake sick people hospitalized in isolation were saved from the Nazi horror. Borromeo, Ossicini and Sacerdoti continued daily to help Jews and the Italian resistance. They installed a clandestine radio transceiver in the basement of the hospital to keep in touch with the other fighters and with Radio London, declared the fake patients dead for K syndrome, and provided them with false documents to make them flee, thus exposing themselves to great risks in a sad historical moment when they had to daily report to the Germans and the hospital was steaming with spies. That's the heart and the genius of Italians at work to save lives. So please save your life. Either you are Italian or not, stay safe, stay healthy, do not underestimate the virus. My name is Umberto Mucci, this was We the ItaliaNews. Ciao from Rome, I'll see you on Monday.